getting pretty excited this time of the year.
Oh, I think we should all be getting pretty excited this time of year,
this is
George.
extra special because not only does she have a number of key positions, but she, if you think about it long and hard, and the she I'm talking about in this case is Sarah Ann Walsh from Football Australia. And let me just read you this intro because it never ceases to amaze me. Head of Women's Football, Women's World Cup Legacy and Inclusion. And just last November, Sarah was appointed co-chair of the inaugural National Indigenous Advisory Group of Football Australia. So she should be buoyant. I'm waiting for her to smile. There it is. There's a smile.
You haven't been looking hard enough.
Well done. Great to have you on board. Thank you for joining us at short notice because it's been a very busy week for a whole lot of football people for a great number of reasons, and most of it to do with a season starting, an Australia Cup just about at that gorgeous phase. It's the final, the round of 32?
Yes, it starts tonight.
And there are games across Australia. So it truly is not only a national knockout tournament, but as each and every venue lights up and the stories, and don't they have some great stories coming out from all manner of different places, from Darwin, Sydney, Melbourne. We'll be talking to someone who's the new chair of Central Coast Mariners very shortly, and he's very excited because his team, Central Coast Mariners, are getting ready to take on Sydney FC, which won't be easy. But Sarah, welcome. You've got 1,000 things to talk to us about, and one of the things I want to ask you straight out of the box is, will there be a Women's Australia Cup?
It's a very good question, and I know that our CEO James Johnson has talked about a number of different points last year and this year. So it's definitely an aspiration for us to create one, particularly given the excitement around the Women's World Cup and all the other developments within the women's game. A bit to work through in terms of the overall women's domestic match calendar to practically make that work, given the significant crossover of players between the women's MPL and the Liberty A-League. But
can you imagine?
It'd be fantastic. But also with the extension of the Liberty A-League, I think we're moving closer to being able to make that happen, particularly with more match minutes for that. So I think that we'll start to see a more aligned match calendar like the men's for the women, and then we'll be able to, I guess, finish the year off, the women's season off with a Australia Cup for women's, which is super exciting.
It is exciting. Look, I'm watching the European Championships, and the women's game is there have been some fantastic contests and some awesome goals scored, and one this morning that the British will be talking about. Sorry, the English will be talking about for the next 100
throw
years.
my Scottish lot in. No, I won't let that happen.
Lachie, whenever I say England, he just squirms a little in his seat because it's the Scottish heritage. But you must be thrilled to bits to be seeing the women's game, not only in this country but around the world, really starting to pick up, not only in numbers, in ratings, but in excitement.
Absolute crowds is just another indicator that women's football is on the rise. We've seen a significant number of attendance at matches, particularly in Spain previously. Now we're seeing that across the board in Europe, and particularly in this tournament. The UEFA tournament now. So, we have Ellie Carpenter in the country, and we had an event to celebrate 1 year to go until the Women's World Cup next year. And she was talking about having lived the excitement and the increase in interest, particularly over at Olympique Lyonnais. And she just said that, there's such a buzz and anticipation for how big this tournament will be next year off the back of all this increased interest over the last couple of years since the last World Cup. And I mean, we're expecting 60,000 unique visitors here next year for the Women's World Cup. And, we have 32 matches. So the event itself is much bigger than the 2019 one. They're expecting 1.5 billion viewers. So, we're already talking about tickets going on sale soon, really great prices for families. We're going to see some packed out matches, not just for the Matildas, but across the board. So the draw in October, I'm super excited to see what that might look like over the length of the tournament. But there's no doubt we're going to see record crowds, and for Australia, it's super exciting.
You mentioned Ellie Carpenter. She's had, of course, a major sporting injury. How's she getting about, and how does she look? Now, you're a former Matilda. Sorry, you are a Matilda.
No, I'm a former.
No, you're a former member of the Matildas, but you'll always be a Matilda. So for me, you know what it takes to get back from injury. How does she look? What is she saying, or what do you get a sense? Will she be ready?
Yes, I think.
Oh wow, that's great.
I think she's. I'm obviously not her doctor, but we had some really lovely chats. I spent some time with her. She's very young, and I think one of the challenges. I actually did 3 knee reconstructions by age 18, which a lot of people don't know about. And we were just discussing how, you forget the progress you've made when you just have a bad day. And she said she's had a couple bad days. And I said, you should create a diary for yourself, because you'll read back 5 pages to see that you couldn't walk, and when you have a hit, they're just really good reminders.
So what you reminded her of was perspective.
Perspective, that's right. But look, I think one of the challenges I had coming back from knee reconstructions, and I know my performance and the support around this team is much more advanced now, particularly within her club. She has all the support she needs. She's at home to get that mental support now for a period of time. But one of the challenges match fitness. That's one of her strengths as a player, her stamina, speed, and simply her physique. I don't think that will be a challenge for her. So I think, as long as everything goes well with her rehab, she should be okay. The timing's okay, so it's good.
Sarah Walsh is our special guest on FNR's State of Our Football Nation. Lachie had a couple of questions for you, and I jumped in, and I apologise for that. But I was very keen to know, you said you had 3 knees. That's incredible. What have we learned in the time that you were playing, and what we're seeing today, and how are our sporting science people preparing our women for the challenges ahead? Because the game is getting bigger. More matches are coming on. That creates that wonderful, opportunity to get fit.
And we have seen a bit of a trend as well lately in that the occurrence of these sort of severe injuries.
We saw it in a number of sports. The last thing we want to be seeing it in is our major. So what have we learned? What have you learned, Sarah, that you could pass on or did pass on to Ellie?
There's 2 parts to this. There's, I would say, if you park research around women's ACL, and challenges around injuries, we park that for a sec. You simply can't compare my experience with Ellie's. There was no load management. There was absolutely no full-time high performance programs that I was a part of until the back end of my career. So, Ellie is thought about through the lens of club and national team over the period of 4-year cycles now. Every single match and minute, everything she does as part of her day is thought about and scrutinised under the guise of a national team coach and her club coach. And there's always a good friction and balance between that. But separate to that, there's just simply not enough research on women in high performance. For a long time, women have been treated like smaller men. Thinking about our menstrual cycles, our hip, our bone structure. There is just not enough research to and not enough years of research to be able to say, okay, well, this is what we need to do differently, because we've simply been treated like smaller men, and more of that research is starting to take place with all of the investment, particularly in Europe, in the club system, in national team system, and I think. Only until we start to collate that over a longer period of time will we know why we're having so many ACLs in the women's game. So, with increased performance load management and support of players, plus more research, I think we'll be in a better place, but simply no one knows right now.
Yeah, so qualitative and quantitative research required.
Sarah, I not to lean too heavily on George's own journalistic work, but I kind of wanted to take his question earlier about Ellie Carpenter and the steps she's taking and sort of extrapolate it to the Matilda squad as a whole, because it is now, 1 year out from our,
And
Women's
counting.
World Cup and counting. Well, 364 days. We're being technical about it, I guess.
Correct.
But how do you feel that the team as a whole is placed 1 year out from the World Cup? Obviously, we've seen some mixed results as some of the youth get a chance to come through the senior Matildas setup.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, the sports science team manages the load of some of those key players. How do you feel the team is positioned at the moment? And what steps does it need to take from now until 364 days to put us in good stead to secure, a pleasing or a good result at the Women's World Cup?
Yeah, I guess the way that we view it is again in two parts. One is what they're doing for their national team, and two, what club environment they're spending their time in. And, a good number of our players are in fantastic clubs where they're managed like superstars. They are like Sam Kerr, Ellie Carpenter.
Yeah.
All of these players are at good clubs with, they're treated like very valued assets. So making sure that they're getting game time in those clubs, they're training and, the structures around them whilst they're not under our, within our program is really important. We talk about 365 days to go. We actually only have 5 windows, 5 home windows available to actually have them. So as we know, they're playing in September against Canada. We'll have
this
more
is on
matches.
This is on the new stadium in Sydney, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So,
wow.
I mean, that's what's within the control of and planning strategy of Football Australia is making sure that the windows that we have available left, we're playing good, strong opposition.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've brought in the Olympic champions, and we're thinking about making sure that we have our strongest squad. And it was very challenging, obviously, playing Spain and Portugal. We obviously would have loved to have had our strongest team. However, thinking about the mental and physical health of players over the longer period up to the run into the Women's World Cup had to take precedent. So, I think we'll see the benefits of that in September. We'll see freshened up players that are just going into pre-season, players that have had some mental time off. What people don't know, Sam Kerr hadn't had a break in 2 years. We simply just had to prioritise that. So although we would have loved to have had our best squad, we couldn't make that happen. There's obviously benefits in getting some match time and exposure for younger players.
Yeah. They get jaded.
Now we're in business mode.
Yeah. They get jaded. People don't realise that to be in that fitness zone, that is at the elite level, for 2 years is extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, you just run the risk of burnout, really.
We don't ask anybody else to do it, but we've asked some of our superstars. You were saying,
and
Lachie.
if there's not a load management issue, and which we start to see injuries, I honestly don't think people talk enough about mental health.
Correct.
And then overlay that with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Some of our players haven't seen their families for long periods of time, and you really can't quantify how much that boosts the system of someone like Sam who got to spend some time home at Perth with the family.
Yeah, well, we spoke to Milos Ninkovic last week, and Milos hadn't seen his family
in Serbia,
for the better part of 2.5 years. So, and he said what a great relief it was, and what an opportunity for him and his wife to show their child to their grandparents for the first time. Extraordinary stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. So it shows, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have the Disney docuseries coming up, and this is actually one of the key themes you'll get to see through this 6-part series. I don't know if people know this, but Tamika Yallop, who is a new mum, didn't see her newborn for 7 months.
Oh, gee.
Because she prioritised going to club football and finalising a contract there. That's a long time. I don't even know what that would feel like to not see my 1-year-old for.
Well, we know Tamika
months.
because she's been a great part of the football family at the City Club, and I know her journey overseas, her challenges, and her fantastic progress, and we're delighted for her. But I understand that ordeal of having to play and not see the family for 7 years, 7 months. That's extraordinary.
It is. So we're going to, I think these are the unique insights that people get to see through this Disney docuseries. I'm really excited by it because...
When does it release, and when do we see it, or where do we see it? on Disney Channel, is it?
Should be released.
Plus.
Yeah, Disney Channel.
Plus.
So Disney Plus. Yeah,
Yep.
I believe it's Disney Plus, but it'll come out next year. The filming's still taking place for that.
Wow. Okay.
You know, they went to film Ellie Carpenter, obviously to get her Champions League medal. And they got that. They got her hopping across the pitch in a brace. And they got a little bit extra, picking up the surgery. And, you know, there's some fascinating things you're going to see that, Ibrahim, I can never say his name, Zlatan. Actually went under the knife.
All you need to say is the first name. That's enough.
Right. He's one of the few people in the world. You just say his first name.
The Lion went under the knife before her with the same surgeon, so we knew she was in good hands. All. You know, Disney have picked that up. So, honestly, the level of commitment and sacrifice this team is, I don't even think I understand it. I didn't spend no. So, what a really unique insight we'll get into the team in the lead up to the World Cup.
Well, Sarah, as those important players do get that chance to rest and in some cases see their families, in other cases see their child for the first time in 7 months, that sort of thing, obviously, slowly but surely the attention does turn, obviously, towards the World Cup. And I realised in my lead up to the question, I was a little bit vague about what I referred to as a pleasing result or a passable result or something like that. Internally at Football Australia and within the Matildas, do you guys have an ambition for what we consider to be success for the team at this tournament? Because it is a hard one. Obviously, hosting that World Cup does always, I suppose, come with a certain expectation.
You think?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a lot.
Yeah.
That's maybe putting it lightly.
Sarah's going to tell you. Let me tell you. You don't host something unless you think you can do very, very well, and that's.
But what does internally doing very, very well look like to Football Australia and to the Matildas?
Yeah, look, I don't have. You're probably not going to love my answer. I don't have a definitive. I can say in terms of my personal view, we obviously did quite well, despite a lot of the up and down results we've had over the last couple of years. We also reached the furthest we'd ever had in an Olympics, in a semi-final. We didn't come away with a bronze medal, but you really can't underestimate what it does for a team to break through the glass ceiling. I mean, when we first beat the US, that's been done now. We've broken through to a semi-final now. So, look, in my view, we'd love to make a semi, but obviously there's a long way to go prior to that, and I'd like to see us really perform well in these next 5 windows prior. So. It's probably one for Tony or James Johnson. Conversation between them. But given we made a semi at the Olympics and never made a semi in a World Cup, that would obviously be the benchmark.
Well, in terms of off the pitch, Sarah, I heard you before sort of talking about some of the exciting numbers in terms of revenue, the amount of people that might be watching, but also the other element to this is potentially the amount of people and players, more specifically, that hosting a Women's World Cup might bring into the game as well. Do you think that even though everyone is excited about this tournament upcoming, that we underestimate what kind of an impact this tournament stands to have at a grassroots level? Do you have any facts and figures about how many people you expect to be jumping on board the game as a result of hosting the tournament?
Absolutely, we do. That's all outlined within our Legacy 23 plan. All we have to go by, and there's not a lot of forthcoming information from previous World Cups, particularly Canada and France. But, we've been preparing for this influx of interest for, since we won the actual bid, June 2020. We saw a 20% uplift from the Asian Cup, but a men's Asian Cup is not a Women's World Cup. We're also seeing, one of Australia's most loved sporting teams is the Matildas. We cannot underestimate the impact that's going to have on the interest within our community clubs. So we're already doing the work to make sure that our community clubs are ready. We have close to 2,500 community clubs. We recently ran a national audit which called out the fact that only 35% of our clubs are considered inclusive for women and girls.
So you're talking about facilities and so on?
facilities. So, you know, how the bathroom and the change rooms are set up.
Correct.
You know, access to pitches, irrigation, you know, the capacity of these facilities can actually hold, but really just the design of them. So thinking about all of this, we really need to reshape the face of our game to include women and girls, and we're doing a significant amount of work with government, state government, and you would have seen, you know, we talked about, you know, our legacy plan has already been able to capitalise on $230 million across federal and several state governments. So we've got to, you know, we've done a lot of work, but there's still a lot to do in particular states. So we're going to be very focused on making sure that we've got government and commercial supporting us on this journey.
It sounds like there are so many things that are coming together, and I saw a call the other day for volunteers. So you need to get the volunteers ready also with a year to go.
5,000 of them, apparently.
Yeah, well, it'll be much more. I remember how many volunteers we needed to run the Olympic Games down under, and that was close to 60,000. So it's quite incredible. These are the first steps. And it's going to be if you thought you weren't busy before, Sarah, there's so much more. Are there any plans? You know, we're talking about the latest news coming out of Asia. The Asian Cup could well be something that, you know, the government and Football Australia choose to bid for. Does that add more pressure or more challenges?
Yeah, well, I know James Johnson was quoted in a couple articles yesterday about that, and it's definitely on the horizon. But it's, I think when the way that we view it, right, there's obviously a lot of sports that are hosting major events, but we really do see next year's event as one of the biggest events that we've had as a nation since the 2000 Olympics. We really do. There's a couple of reasons for that, but the Women's World Cup is actually one of the major sporting events in the world, women or male, after the Men's World Cup and after the Rugby Men's World Cup. The Women's World Cup is not far behind it. So the fact that FIFA are in town, they've set up a local entity, the fact that we're sharing it with New Zealand, it's going to be very big. And we see it as a major stepping stone for this country, and particularly federal and state government on the runway to 2032. That's why we see it important to get legacy right, building out the infrastructure to make sure that we're playing our part in the stepping stones on the journey to the next Olympics. Obviously, the rugby have their World Cup, and you know, any other major event, particularly in football, as we're talking about Asian Cup. These are all you know, parts of that broader picture that we're looking at.
Look, as the head of women's football and, of course, the Women's World Cup legacy and inclusion, you've got plenty on your plate. We wish you every success. Please keep us posted as to how we're going, and please pass on our best wishes to all the members of the various teams, whether they're the young Matildas who are and have been really busy. And I can imagine this next generation or this next crop of youngsters who can see an opportunity only a year away. Have you got just before we let you go, are there one or two faces that you're excited about? I know you're excited about a whole bunch of players, but are there one or two that have really piqued your interest and might have something very special to offer?
There's plenty. I mean, look at and some are very obvious to many, but when I look at
I'm asking you because I want to hear you. I want to hear I want to hear your excitement. If I hear it in you, I'll be chuffed. Let me put it that way.
I'm very excited by Mary Fowler. It's but I mean, who isn't? And I know she's still a young face actually.
She's a superstar. She's a superstar.
She's one of the most complete players I've seen in my time. I can't think of a more complete player to ever have played for the Matildas. So I say all that with knowing that she has a lot of growth still. She's not she's young and she has a lot of potential that I hope she meets. But as I see it today, she is one of the most complete finishers, dribblers. She's a visionary on the pitch.
Oh, yeah. She sees a pass
She's
and lays it on
both-footed.
like very few people on the planet playing the game. It's
She has
great.
the mentality. She has the determination. She has everything. So I'm just so excited by, when we think about a legacy beyond Sam Kerr, I get quite excited by her. So.
You bet. Sarah Walsh, we're going to talk to you before the Matildas play that game against Canada. You can bet
Sounds
your bottom dollar, so get ready.
Good. Excellent.
Thanks very much,
Thanks,
and all
team.
the best.
Thank
Sarah
you.
Walsh, the woman who's very much on top of what's happening in women's football, and she's got a number of commitments and a number of challenges ahead of her, but she's focused, she's excited. And I understand the question you posed, Lachie. What does Football Australia want? Let me just tell you, you don't put your hand up unless you think you can go deep. Right? Yeah. Now, whether you go all the way requires on a little bit of luck and that wonderful wave of excitement that can captivate nations. And we saw it when Japan and Korea shared the World Cup duties a number of years ago.
Yes, that is true.
And there were a lot of people saying, what are these people thinking they're going to do? And they played some outrageously exciting football.
That's true. Well, I'm glad you've used
Anything is possible.
I'm glad you've used the phrases captivating and plays outrageously exciting football, because those are two things that I did feel quite a lot last season about the Central Coast Mariners, George.
Yeah, look, they have been a revelation, and I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to throw out there. Nick Montgomery has done a damn fine job, but I want to know what's coming next, because there's a brand new chairman in town, not a new sheriff, but he's a new chairman of the Central Coast Mariners, and boy, has he got a few things we need to ask him. Please welcome, for the very first time, I think, virginal first time on FNR, Rich Peil. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Look, for us, whenever we get a chance at Football Nation Radio to talk the game and to promote the various clubs that make this game better and stronger, it's a huge delight for us. And to know that you've got some big changes, you've got some movement at the club as well. You've lost one of your top marquees. Only today we heard that he's, for family reasons, has had to go back to Central America. So we wish him and his family all the very best. But changing times, and you've just come on board as the new chair. What are the sorts of things that excite you and bring that passion out in Richard Peil?
Well, football in general. I'm a football lover from a long way back. I was born in Leeds, the same as Nick Montgomery. Grew up to the sounds of Ellen Road. I only lived about just over a mile away from Ellen Road.
Is that right?
Yeah, my youngest memory as a kid has been at the famous Ellen Road for a reserve grade match, and all the great Leeds players, Billy Bremner, Peter Lorimer.
Wow.
You just dropped a name.
Madeley.
Rich,
Yeah.
you just dropped a name, Peter Lorimer. There are a whole bunch of there are generations of young Australians and others around the world who need to go to the video to see Peter Lorimer. We saw him live, and when he hit a ball, they say he gave it some. He used to damage footballs. He used to damage stanchions at the back of the goals whenever he hit the ball, and crossbars. You used to almost move. You felt that they were moving.
It's funny, and it's funny how we went in.
Lorimer hit the ball, a dead ball, and it just went. Oh, please don't do it again. He was something.
It would be interesting to see Peter Lorimer striking a modern day football. That would be a treat.
It would swerve a mile.
Yeah. So, listen, back to your question. That's ignited my passion. My father's obviously a passionate Leeds fan. I'm branded by Leeds United. I've got a tattoo on my arm, so football is in my blood.
You're a marked man.
Yeah, I am. But look, I love football. I love where the game is in Australia. I think there's plenty of opportunity. And in particular, you mentioned Nick Montgomery. I love what Nick and his assistant Serge and all the support staff have done over the last couple of years at the Mariners. The amount of young players that they've brought through and the amount of young players that we've got coming underneath those guys, it's very exciting times for us. Unfortunately, we have lost a couple of senior players for no other reason but family reasons, but we have very exciting replacements coming in for them. So we're excited by the season ahead. And
how long before you can let us know who's coming?
Look, there'll be, we've made a few announcements, and off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly who we haven't announced, but I can tell you that we'll be competitive next year. So,
well, you were extraordinarily competitive last year or last season. The thing that fascinated us was that had it not been for a couple of moments, a little bit of luck, a couple of injuries, key injuries at critical times, you could have gone a whole lot further because you played some outstanding football throughout the season. The season.
Absolutely. In fact, we only lost one out of our last 14 competition games, apart from the semi-final. And, I don't like to make excuses, but
no.
We lost a very critical player for our club in Dan Hall for that semi-final game, and we missed him badly. But look, it was experience for a young team.
Yep.
A lot of those young boys, if you take Matty Simon out of our fold this year, I haven't done the average age, but I'm telling you it'd probably be 22, 23.
He'd almost be, if you put him in a box plot, he'd be in that sort of outlier.
Oh yeah. You're right. If you take Matty out, your average age comes down quite appreciably.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, Matty's obviously trying to come back. He had a neck injury last year, as everybody knows, and missed the whole season. And we all thought that would be the end. But Matty's, signed up again, and he's started pre-season training, and I tell you, he looks 25 again, and hopefully he can get through pre-season, and we can see him back on the park. He's got a few boxes to tick before we see that. But man, he even said to me yesterday, he said his legs feel amazing. He feels the year off has given him a new lease of life. Wouldn't it be great to see Matty Simon bustling opposing centre halves again? That would be.
Oh, he loves it. He actually makes defensive units very nervous.
Indeed, he does.
You're a co-founder and director of the Collective Wellness Group, which means you've had years and years and years of operating health clubs around the country. So you understand fitness. You understand, people coming back after a period away and feeling that freshness. We spoke to Sarah Walsh about the challenges of players coming back from major injuries. And other of our stars who've been on the go for the better part of 2 years, you give them a break, and they can be almost a brand new player, can't they?
Absolutely, and look, today is very different from when I played football because we have amazing technology and sports science available. So I've been in the fitness industry for 35 years this year, and I've trained myself elite level athletes, up to Olympic level, and today there's not a lot of guesswork involved with looking after athletes. We have such great technology. I would say that I think it's a little bit underutilised in the A-League space at this stage, but we're certainly, we know we have to produce at the Central Coast Mariners. With such a young squad, we have to produce the best athletes that we can. We can't leave any stone unturned. So as it's a passion of mine, we have invested quite heavily this year in the sports science side of our club. And, hopefully we'll see come round 6, 7, 8, hopefully you'll see some people like Jacob Farrell, who's an unbelievably defensive footballer on the left-hand side there. I think you'll see within another 2 or 3 months, a totally different athlete for players like that. So watch this space.
So what, after 7 or 8 rounds, what kind of Garang Kuol are we going to see?
Yeah, good question.
So we had a closed-door trial last night, and man, I tell you, Garang looked great.
Yeah, I bet. He's a speed merchant, isn't he?
Well, he's not just a speeder. There's speed merchants, and then there's speed merchants with the ball. The guy glides past defenders like a hot knife through butter. But he's got a long way to go. That's why he's still in Australia at the moment. He's he knows that Nick and Serge have still got a lot of things to teach him, and he's I believe unbelievable impact player. Great young man. His next step is becoming a 90-minute footballer. So he's still got a learning. 17 years old still. He's not even 18. So
I was just going to say, he gave both the club and himself a fabulous showcase window when he played for the Selector A-League side against Barca. You would have been enormously proud of him.
I was proud, but I created too many headaches for me, mate. I had too many phone calls about would we let him go? Would we let him? I'm sorry,
you're the chair now. That's what it means, Chairman.
Exactly.
You have a number of commitments and a number of different hats to wear when you're the chair at a football club. You've got to be mentor, you've got to be psychologist, you've got to be salesperson, marketing agent, and the person who answers the tough phone calls too.
Yeah, true. I'll tell you. I will tell you this though. I mean, yes and no. I mean, the team that we have around the club, in the corporate office,
marketing,
they've just done an amazing job over the last couple of years, and on very tight budgets in very difficult circumstances. They've done an amazing job to keep the club where it is. And on the football side, listen, I've been coached by some of the best. I've been coached by Willie Wallace, David Pleat, Frank Arrock, some really good coaches. And I'm telling you, Nick Montgomery and Serge, they're going to coach at the highest level on this planet. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So, hence the reason why I'm
buoyant.
I am buoyant, but I'm already planning. I know that they're going to get big offers in 3 to 5 years' time, and that's one of the reasons why I've brought Luke Wiltshire in, who's a good friend of mine, and someone else who I believe Luke will one day coach the national team.
Well, he knows the game, and he's played around the world. A question without notice: is it true that your son was one of the reasons why you said, "Let me get involved with the Central Coast Mariners"?
He's actually the sole reason. So he.
Tell me more.
Well, he came to us to my wife and I at 14 and said, "Can I finish school at a football academy in
What did Jess say? Your wife? What did she say?
We both said no. We both said,
smart,
you still feel that way in 12 months' time, come back, and he did at 15. So we let him go, thinking it'd last 3 months, and a year and a half later, and through COVID, he was still overseas, and we were keen to get him back. So he came back for Christmas, and ended up through Luke and then Monty ended up training at the Mariners, and he impressed enough to basically get offered the final spot in the full-time academy. So I didn't go there. I was originally just there supporting my son through his football dream, and then Monty and I, both born in Leeds, realised our background was so similar. It was crazy.
Wow.
Both housing commission, parents who worked extremely hard. I left school to play professionally. Obviously, Monty was a substantially better player than me. I don't mention myself in the same breath as Nick Montgomery as a player, but just the link there came, and I started looking at the club, and then I ended up speaking to Mike Charlesworth, who of course is a Leeds fan himself, and we had that common link. And contrary to what people may think about Mike, Mike is a really good guy. It's just that life has taken him to the other side of the planet, and I guess it's hard to keep the motivation for a club and keep your finger on the pulse from 12,000 miles away. But Mike and I got talking, and then I agreed to fund the club for the next 3 years, and as long as I achieve certain KPIs, then Mike and I will become partners in the club and hopefully have a long-term relationship. So that's the plan.
Well, that explains an awful lot of reasons why you are so excited and so buoyant and so committed to supporting that crew in that club that has done already some wonderful work. And allowed everyone to have a good long look at the Central Coast Mariners. Not only do you have a most picturesque playing pitch.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say Elland Road and obviously the Central Coast Mariners Stadium is quite a charmed life where it comes to a football stadium.
Yeah. Bit
hey,
different.
listen, I will tell you that, there was a lot of, investing, substantial seven figures into a football club is a decision that you don't take lightly. I don't know.
No.
But, my wife does a lot of charity work for Bravehearts, and she has her own charity that raises money for survivors of child sexual abuse. So, that money could have been utilised for, many other things, but I decided to invest it into the football club because I believe in the long term. I believe where the league's going in Australia, but I will tell you that the stadium was probably the clinching. I just love Central Coast Stadium.
It's a beautiful stadium.
It is just something about being there with, we had nearly 12,000 people there for our last home game, and it's a really, really cool and exciting environment. And I do hope to utilise the, more people we get to grounds, I do hope to utilise, expanding the charity work that my wife does via the football vehicle. So there is an alternate strategy there through the investment as well. So yeah, exciting times, guys. Very exciting times.
Well, Richard, it's fascinating to hear that arrangement that you've got, obviously, with Mike, because I think if there's one thing that we would always like to see more of and love to see more of in this case in Australian football is people with that skin in the game, with the, risks sort of motivating them towards. Yeah, because you don't make that sort of decision without the passion. But I guess the logical question from the information you shared with us is what are those sort of goals over the next 3 years that you set for the Central Coast Mariners? We obviously see fifth place finish in the most recent season. Great chance for young players to come through and break out, and as we're seeing more on a more increasing rate as well, exporting those young players onto to teams in the European stable as well. What are those sort of KPIs that you set for yourself and want to achieve with this 3-year run with the Mariners and hopefully more?
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is that the 3-year is the agreement that Mike can have. I'm very confident that I'll hit the KPIs that Mike and I have set. So my commitment today, I'm looking at this as a 10-year project. So I am here for the long run. I'm committed to keeping the club on the coast. So that's the first thing I want to say is that any rumours that I plan on taking this club back to Canberra or anything like that are just false. That's just not the case. Good. I have 3 really, really clear objectives, and I call them the 3 8s. The first thing is that I've set the objective next year for our 12 home games, because we do take one game to a country location, is that we have 96,000 paying customers across those 12 games, which means an average of 8,000 people per game. I know it's a big task for our team, but that's what we're shooting for. And if we don't achieve it next season, I certainly believe by season 2 or 3 that we'll be achieving those sorts of numbers. So that's our first big objective. And the reason why that's important is when we're attracting an average of 8,000 people per game, it means that we're becoming a commercially viable business, both for attracting sponsors and obviously we're generating money through gate taking. So that's number one. The second one is that within 3 years and for the next 7 years after that, while I'm committed, I've set the team the task of we need to sell $800,000 worth of talent to Europe every year. So again, why that's a primary KPI is that if we are selling $800,000 worth of talent to Europe every year, it means that our academy is producing top quality players.
I was just going to say that's not a fanciful number, by the way. As a former president of South Melbourne, I was part of the crew that sold Michael Petkovic, who was then our goalkeeper, to one of the super clubs in Turkey, Trabzonspor, and I think at the time it was 750,000 US at the time, which was a substantial amount of money then. We're talking the early 2000s. So to think that you've put up a number like 850, I think in this modern sporting landscape, that's very achievable. I think
it is achievable.
That's in your purview.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is that you will find that the market today is a little bit lower than it has been previously for us. For when Tom Rodgick and players like that, who went for nearly $1 million many years ago, it is a little bit harder.
So sorry to interrupt, Richard. Is there a reason for that in your experience? Because I think there are some who do feel that there are players that are coming through that are at that sort of level that we're selling on right now that maybe we're not getting enough, extracting enough value for. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and experiences as to why that market isn't quite as high as it used to be.
I would encourage you to get a really smart guy like Paddy Dominguez, one of the best agents on the planet, or someone like that on to answer that one, because you mentioned my experience, Lachie, let's be real. My experience is like 5 months in this space. Yeah. So while I've been played at a decent level, and I'm a lover, like running a football club. I'm not out of my depth, guys, because I've run many businesses, and
you've run massive businesses across the country for
so our
20-30 years.
Our Anytime Fitness brand has 570,000 members across Australia, which we're very proud about. So I've run decent-sized businesses, but I'm learning on the run in the football space, guys. So
that's fair enough.
Probably don't feel like I'm qualified to answer that, but I would say there'd be some sort of market forces. But, it'll be a good question to ask a much more knowledgeable person than me. But back to my goals, my last goal, and probably the most important one, is that by the end of a decade at this club, I want to be able to sit back and Nick and Serge and Luke and Andy Bernal and I have the same objective here, and that is that we want 8 Central Coast Mariners products playing in top leagues, or have played in top leagues
around the world, throughout
Europe. So the 5 top leagues in Europe: EPL, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and that's fantastic. Our goal is that, and if we can achieve that again, we know we'll have been doing a lot of right things. But the immediate goal over the next couple of years is to, again, Nick and Serge have done an amazing job with the academy. Guys like Dan Hall, Jacob Farrell, Lewis Miller, Max Ballard, Harry Steele. All these players are products of the hard work the hard work those boys have put in, but also the hard work that Nick and Monty have put in. But I still think we can amplify and put more resources into our youth academy. And again, that's I'm backing Luke to utilise the additional resources and hopefully produce the next crop of players that are going to play first team football for the Mariners, but then move on to big clubs in Europe. So that's our goal, guys.
You also mentioned Andrew Bernal in your crew. That's a name that knows the game.
Andy's look. I don't know if you've read Andy's book. If you haven't,
we know Andy. We know Andy long time. I'm a Sydney boy. Sydney Olympic was part of that makeup, and we know Andrew Bernal's story. The book is amazing. It should be a movie. Tell Andy that George says it should be a movie.
I agree with you. I mean, some of the stuff that, and listen, there's another 3 books in that guy's head.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the stories that he comes out with.
Just do me a favour. Don't put him anywhere near Ray Gatt. Because they'll write an encyclopedia full of
trilogy.
Stories. Oh, yeah, trilogy. No, Ray's another great character who loves the club and loves the area and can see enormous growth and potential. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. No. Look, back to Andy. The coaching staff and the players just love the guy. He's the most enthusiastic. Human on the planet. He has a unique ability to make people push themselves out of their comfort zones and want to do it. He's a really big asset to our to our club and working his backside off at the moment to make better players. So, he's a great guy,
We're talking to Richard Peil, who's the new chairman of the Central Coast Mariners, a businessman in his own right, knows his way around the health and wellness business for the better part of the last 30 years. But as you've heard and as he's told us, he's new at this caper, but he's got enormous focus and passion to make it work. And like many of his other businesses, we can see it happening. There is an enormous nursery in that area of New South Wales. And Rich, I'm sure you're right across that. And we wish you enormous success. I just want to ask you a big question. You've got an Australia Cup game coming up against a little-known club called Sydney FC.
Never heard of them.
How are you coping with the prep?
Listen, we've been back for 8 days, and that's why we had a closed-door game last night, just to get some kilometres underneath the legs of the players.
Yep.
We'll be competitive. We'll be competitive, and we hope to go deep into the competition. But I'm sure Sydney are the same as us, that it's impossible to physically have players anywhere near their peak fitness at that stage of the season.
I don't discount what you're saying, but I should also tell you, and you know this from other sources as well, Sydney are going through a massive rebuild.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And Nick has got much of your crew and club just where he wants it, correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
With one or two exceptions.
Yeah, with one or two exceptions, losing Mark Burrighty at the stage of the season that we did, we've got Yaron Souza in there who's hasn't played a lot of football the last couple of seasons because of being basically a second keeper. So, are we where we want it? Are we where we will be at the start of the season? Not even close. But look, we'll be competitive. The one thing I can guarantee you that is the game. There will be a strong game plan there. The players will know, what that game plan is, and that one of the big benefits, guys, like I said, when you've got an average age of 22, 23, we will be extremely enthusiastic. There'll be no lack of enthusiasm. We've got some great new players in there that are, want to make their name. Sammy Silvera's back at the club, which we're excited about. Michael Roos, who looks, like a beast last night. He looked fantastic. So, and a couple of other players from the Wanderers and a few other clubs. So yeah, look, we want to win the game. Let me tell you that we want to win the game. So fingers crossed that's what happens.
Was that 22 or 23 years old scored average with or without Matt Simon? I'm interested to know.
No, we're taking Matty out of there. So Matty out of there for that.
I was going to say, because we took him out, it'd be down to like 19, 20. Which would just be,
something like that.
Which would be absurd. I want to talk a little bit, just a little bit about Mark Burrighty, because obviously he is the second player now in this off-season that we've seen go across from...
Rich, be very careful. He's a Scottish boy. So he's buoyant. He is buoyant now.
It's funny because you would when we were listing off Leeds players earlier, you went down a different route to me. I was immediately like, oh, wow, Billy Bremner. Yes, that's amazing.
But you're not old enough to remember those great names and those superstars of Leeds' time. But Burrighty, go on, continue.
Mark is the second player, obviously, to make that move across to the Scottish Premiership in this off-season. We saw Kai Rolls obviously secure a deal with Hearts. When you've got those sort of...
Third one.
Lewis
Miller as
yes,
well.
of course. Lewis as well off to...
Hey, Aaron Moy's gone to Celtic too, boys.
No, I meant from that Central Coast Mariners nursery specifically,
just being
of course.
A disruptor.
Lewis as well with that brief little detour to MacArthur as well. But when you've got the kind of ambitions that you do in terms of the on-selling of players to those important leagues, bringing in certain, revenue targets, that sort of thing, it must really, really please you to have this sort of burgeoning trade partnership between Australia and Scotland, opening up in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's no secret that Luke is good friends with Craig Moore. Nick, so is Nick Montgomery, and I have a good friendship with Craig Moore as well. And Craig's well and truly embedded in the agents world in Scotland. So he's a great link for us there. And there will be definitely other players from our club in the next 12 months heading over that way. As you guys know, it's easier to get to for an Australian kid to play in Scotland. It's because of the FIFA rules around going to the UK straight to an English league. So that's why a lot of them end up there. But I'll make this prediction, guys.
Go.
I believe, and I honestly believe this, that both Lewis Miller and Kai Rolls will play in the English Premier League. I reckon Kai Rolls will probably play left back somewhere. And I reckon that Lewis Miller will play at least championship, high-level championship team, but possibly in the premiership. They are both.
Well, they haven't disgraced us at Socceroo level yet, have they?
No, I mean Kai Rolls was outstanding.
Just fabulous.
And I, Rich, want you to be right, because as a Hearts fan, Kai Rolls moving on to the Premier League means very good results for me. So no complaints at all.
Yeah. Look, and some people have mixed opinions about us selling players. The reality is that the Central Coast Mariners, with our budget, we have to sell players. That's part of our DNA, and it always will be. But, you know, it's like any business that I'm involved with, it's, you know, future planning is important. So when we know, for instance, that Jacob Farrell is most likely to get reasonable offers within the next 12, 18 months to 2 years, you know, it's important that we are working very hard to have the next one or two left fullbacks coming through our ranks. So, you know, we've got good strategies around identifying the players that we think are going to move on. The other one who I think will go to a decent league in Europe is Max Ballard. I think watch him this year, guys. I think he's a special talent. So, you know, we're already, Monty blooded a young Max Middleby in the closed door game.
Any relation to Robbie?
Yeah, Robbie's son, Robbie Middleby's son.
So plenty of DNA is what you're saying.
Yeah, DNA, great young player, great young person. 17 years old, and he got 15 minutes in that game. And, there's plenty of others around that age that we know will step up to that mark. So that's the DNA of our club, and as long as I'm involved, we'll continue to have that focus of bringing young players through. So,
well, we started this conversation by introducing the new chairman of the Central Coast Mariners, Richard Peil, and very quickly we got to understand just how many hats you wear, Rich. Not only promoter, not only salesman, not only the man who cares about protecting and future-proofing the club for what looks like the next decade. But we wish you and that current crop under Nick and co every best opportunity. And let's hope that the injury curse that has knocked so many of your players over the last half a dozen years doesn't rear its ugly head. And if it does, you get them back on the pitch ASAP.
Yeah, listen, guys, thank you for inviting me on, and congratulations on a great show too, guys. It's it's a pleasure to be a guest on your show. So,
Rich, just as you have put in a lot of work to get the club and your businesses to function, FNR has been looking to do one thing for the better part of the last 5 years. That's to be the voice of the game and to promote the game at every opportunity. We have a young crop of broadcasters, male and female, and all they want to be is better. Just like your team, your young players there, they want to be better at what they do, and they too aspire to go up to the next league and beyond. So it's a two-way street.
Good on you, mate, and good luck to all those young people, and keep doing a great job, guys. Thanks
very much.
Thanks, Rich.
Rich Peil from Central Coast Mariners. There you go. And you feel better?
And like Rich, I also hope that we can get six-figure sums out of our young talents here at Football Nation.
I think it's the next most logical step. I see a World Cup within a year. I see the Women's World Cup demanding and requiring young talent to promote it and to not only broadcast it and also carry the stories. So we have a role to play.
Absolutely. I tell you what was really interesting about that discussion with Rich as well. It's funny because he sort of ended the discussion by talking about how maybe some clubs perhaps look down on or judge the Central Coast Mariners for being that sort of selling club. I look at that completely differently. I look at the Central Coast Mariners model, what they're doing, what they're setting themselves up to do with exporting more of these young players out. And I'm thinking, you guys have, anyone who's looking at the Mariners as going about it the wrong way, have got it all wrong. I believe more clubs, Central Coast Mariners, it's great that we have this talent exporting club with such a high volume of hits and transfer fees. I don't want one. I want two or three. I don't want to see the same other clubs signing the same A-League players who have been through a number of teams. I want to see more of these kind of players. I want to see these players unsold. We need more of the Central Coast Mariners model, not less, in my view.
100%. South Melbourne in the late 90s and early 2000s had pitched themselves as that modern club to go full professional and also to look at becoming the nursery for Australia, to create young talent and promote it and let it go around the world. To some degree they did, but of course they got knocked around by that move from the old NSL to the A-League, and of course that created enormous upheaval. But had it been allowed to continue, you would have seen them doing very much what the Central Coast Mariners are fashioning and looking to do more often than not. And I don't see any negatives whatsoever. If you aspire to be the best young talent you can be, and say, for example, you're a baseballer, if you think you can make a career for yourself in Australia, so be it. But you know where I'd be hoping? I'd be wanting to play in the biggest leagues in the world, and that is across the world in America.
I think it also makes... and I
so
think
why not football?
I agree. And I think it also makes a difference from a fan perspective as well, because compare the pair here, George. Do you want to have that opportunity for when for the sake of argument, Garang Kuol goes on to play for...
wherever, whatever.
Borussia Dortmund, just as a random example.
Yep.
Do you want to have that chance to bump your mate at Amy Park and go, I was there. I saw him when he was here at the Central Coast Mariners, and now he is at Borussia Dortmund, against saying, I was there when this player played for their 6th A-League club and did, okay.
You and your father, a long-time Melbourne Heart and Melbourne City, so you understand some of the young talent that's come through the door. Jeanro, Azani, young Marco Tilio. Yeah. Nothing more exhilarating as a football fan, in my opinion, to be sitting there and to see this beautiful and most tantalising talent make an appearance and just capture your imagination.
How much better is it?
And then you watch them grow.
How much better is it to get in the ground floor and say, I was there, than just to see the same player in a different shirt?
Best thing in the world. Best thing in the world.
I agree.
Let's talk about this again next week when we join you on FNR. Lachie Flanagan, George Danikian. It's been State of Our Football Nation, and two very special guests this week. And our thanks to Sarah Walsh from Football Australia, who has an enormous role to play as the head of women's football, and a Women's World Cup just around the corner. And, of course, the new man, the new chairman of the Central Coast Mariners, who is really getting himself ready. He's gearing up for what promises to be an exciting season under their coach, Nick Montgomery, who did such a great job last year. And his lieutenants are all, salivating at the prospect and the opportunities that lie ahead. And we wish them well when they take on Sydney FC. I think it's next week at Leichhardt, and we'll follow that and see how they come up. So there you go. Richard Peil, the chair of Central Coast Mariners, giving a behind-the-scenes look at what promises to be an exciting journey in 2022-23, and more importantly, giving us a sense of what the club is thinking of doing over the next decade.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's nice to have that level of insight.
Correct. Catch you next week. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.